All right, welcome everybody. It's another ChatLoopBackOff where we're going to take a look with a CNCF ambassador at one of the awesome CNCF landscape projects. And today we have Booby. Please introduce yourself. I'm going to go ahead and cut it to the background. Chat, feel free to tell us where you're from, and then the hour is yours to show us KubeEdge. Thanks.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Oluebube, but you can call me Bube for short, Princess also. I am a software engineer and I am also a DevRel engineer, and I am a CNTF ambassador as well. Yeah, so I am actually from Nigeria. Yeah, I live in Lagos, Nigeria. I don't know how many people know that place. Okay, I hope you're doing well today. Today, we're going to be talking about a project that I only started exploring yesterday. So, I had been working as part of the Kubernetes release team, and since the release had just happened just 2 days ago, I just had the time to start looking into this project. But that's the essence of ChatLoopBackOff, right? To explore a new project that you've never used before or that's kind of off your terrain and try to figure things out as you go. Speaking of Kubernetes, the latest version was released 2 days ago, and you should really check it out if you use Kubernetes. There are about 45 enhancements that went into that release, and you can read more about it on the Kubernetes website. That being said, I don't know it all. I do not have all the answers. So if you're familiar with KubeEdge, I'd appreciate it if you can help us out in the chat if we ever get stuck. The chats are open and you can comment or ask any questions if they are necessary. One more thing, you might hear kids scream in the background or maybe sometimes pop up on camera. And that's perfectly fine. Just heads up. All right, let's dive right in. Um, so today we're going to be exploring KubeEdge. Like I said, I've only started exploring it I started yesterday. So we're going to be learning together as we go. So I like to go to the docs as opposed to, like looking at other resources about any project. So the best where you can find your answers, your answers are almost always in the docs. So um, I mean, it's what I stand by. I think. Yeah, so according to the documentation, KubeEdge is an open source system extending native containerized application orchestration and device management to hosts at the edge. Okay, that seems like a lot of things. But if you're new to edge computing means processing data close to where it is generated, as opposed to sending it to a central server for it to be processed, right? Let's take cameras in maybe a parking lot, for example, where you need to take a photo of people and process that photo and open doors maybe based on the photo that you've taken. Open a door depending on who it is or whatever. Just take that as a scenario. You want to process that data closer to the edge as opposed to sending it to a central server because there's this latency when you want to transfer data to a central server to be processed and then returned before a decision can be made based on it. We also know that devices differ. Like there might be 300 or 400 types of cameras in a parking lot, for example. So installing applications on these cameras or even other um, edge edge devices like servers and all that, it can be, when you install those applications, they may behave differently depending on the hardware involved. And that is where containerization comes in. So to avoid this device compatibility issues, that's why we have containerization. So containerization essentially enables you to bundle an application with the runtime environment or everything that it needs to run, and then um, any device or any machine, or yeah, any machine that has a container runtime environment can actually run that application. So that's the essence of containerization. The other buzzword that we saw in this explanation is orchestration. So orchestration basically has to do with you managing, deploying, scaling those containerized applications, whether they are on the edge or on the cloud. You know, everything that goes into managing containerized applications is called orchestration. So Kubernetes is one of the tools that's used for container orchestration, and KubeEdge extends Kubernetes. Yeah. So based on all those explanations, I think that what this is trying to say is that KubeEdge is essentially an open source application that allows you to extend the ability to orchestrate containers to the edge, right? Um, I mean, if you have any questions, you can ask. So, according to the documentation again, it also provides support for networking, application deployment, and metadata synchronization between the cloud and the edge. And it also supports MQTT. So MQTT is message queuing, telemetry transport, and it's basically a lightweight publish subscribe protocol that um, is designed for constrained devices. So devices that do not have that have low bandwidth, where there is low bandwidth, low resources, and all that. You can use um, you can sorry, MQTT on on those devices. Yeah. So what are the advantages of KubeEdge? According to the documentation, some of the advantages are, okay, the first one here says edge computing. With business logic running at the edge, much larger volumes of data can be secured and processed locally produced, which is one of the things we've explained already. Um, this reduces the network bandwidth requirements and consumption between edge and node. It increases responsiveness, decreases costs, and protects customers' data. Okay, we'll see that in action. Like, we'll know if it actually delivers on what it says as we go. There's also simplified development. So essentially, developers can write both HTTP and MQTT based applications and containerize them and run them anywhere, whether it's at the edge or in the cloud. And then, of course, Kubernetes native support. Since KubeEdge extends Kubernetes, yeah, it supports Kubernetes, which is one of the largest container orchestration tools. So just by extending Kubernetes, I believe that it will have the same benefits that Kubernetes also offers and even more. While I was also going through this, I came across um, edge autonomy. So essentially, um, if the edge or the cloud gets disconnected, your application can still, if the edge gets disconnected from the cloud, your application can still run on the edge independently. So we'll also see if it delivers on what it promises. Okay, now to components of KubeEdge. So I think I'd prefer to use the architecture diagram. So from the architecture diagram, we can see that there are two sides, or two major parts of KubeEdge. There's the cloud side and there's the edge side, right? So on the cloud side, we have the cloud core as the major component. And the cloud core has two controllers and a cloud hub. So this controllers, I think, would extend Kubernetes controllers. So let's see from the explanation. So we have the edge controller. The edge controller is an extended Kubernetes controller here, which manages edge nodes and pod metadata so that the data can be targeted to a specific edge node. Yeah. So essentially, has all, say, like a dictionary that contains the all the pod metadata and the nodes metadata, so that you can interact directly with any of the edge nodes, or yeah, any of the edge nodes that you'd like to interact with. Yeah, and then there's device controller. From here, it says that device controller is an extended Kubernetes controller as well, which manages devices so that the device metadata uh, or status data can be synced between the edge and the cloud. So I think the difference between the both of them is that the edge controller has the metadata for nodes and pods, and the device controller has the metadata for devices that's actual devices on the edge. I mean, that's what I understand by that. And then we have a cloud hub. So the cloud hub is a web socket that allows you to watch changes at the cloud side, catch these changes, and then send messages to the edge hub. Yeah, so that's what this cloud hub does. So as we interact with the cloud core via the Kubernetes API server. So it means that the cloud core is definitely the second part of KubeEdge is the edge side, which consists majorly of edge core. There are, I can see container run MQTT, an MQTT setup, and HTTP. Okay, let's see what that is. So the edge core also has an edge hub, and I am assuming that it's also going to be a web socket. So the Edge Hub is a WebSocket client, yeah, that's responsible for interacting with the cloud service. So I think it's the interface between the Edge service and the cloud service. So I'm also assuming that it's going to do a lot of syncing between the cloud side and the edge side. And then we have Manager. The Meta Manager is a message processor that's between the edged, okay, this is edged, and edge hub. So it's responsible for storing and retrieving data from a lightweight database. I'm not sure what this database contains, but I think we'll find out as we go. And then we have device twin. Here it says that the device twin is responsible for storing device status and syncing device status to the cloud. So at this point, I'm wondering what the difference between the device twin and the device controller is. But I guess I'll read more on that later. So we have the service bus. So remember that one of the advantages of KubeEdge is that it allows developers to write HTTP-based applications, containerize them, and deploy them to the edge. So the service bus is a HTTP client that enables you interact with HTTP servers. So it offers HTTP client capabilities to components of the cloud so that the components of the cloud can reach HTTP servers running at the edge. And we also have event bus. Okay, the event bus is an MQTT client to interact with MQTT servers to offer publish and subscribe capabilities to other components. And then I can see like a container runtime here. I can whether it's Docker, container D, CryoD, whatever it is. So I'd say let's actually dive in to understand better how it works. Already gone through what KubeEdge is. So here it says that we need a Kubernetes, and then for side we need a container run. You can choose whichever, whether it's Docker, container, and then I also see that MQTT server is optional. It's not required. So okay. I can also see the official GitHub repository that contains the KubeEdge releases. So for the releases, we have different versions. I think version 1.18.0 is the latest. But in the documentation, I think they've used 1.17.0. At least that was what I saw in the documentation. Okay, I think this is beyond the scope of our call, like looking at the change logs. So I'll just go back to setting up KubeEdge. So prerequisites. So we've already seen the prerequisites, which are Kubernetes and a container runtime. So for Cloud Core, we need Kubernetes. So I have gone ahead to create two virtual machines. Um, so one of them is CNCF KubeEdge Cloud Core, and then the other one is CNCF KubeEdge Edge Core. And I have both of them open already on my browser. So for KubeEdge Cloud Core, we need to set up Kubernetes, right? While going through this, I actually made some notes so that I can easily reference the notes to do the setup, as opposed to going to the documentation to copy these commands. So on the Edge core side, I have already installed Docker. I was doing that before this call started. It's what-
If you could up the font size there, that would be great.
Okay, okay.
Just having a hard time reading. Oh yeah, perfect. Thank
How,
you.
yeah.
That's perfect. Thanks.
It's really taking some time to like, there's some latency, but on me. We can see Docker is already running. Yeah, this is Edge Core, but I am yet to install Docker on Cloud Core. So I'll just go ahead and copy this command. I'm going to share these notes at the end of the session so that if you need it, you can actually use it to set up as well. So while that is being downloaded, while we are installing Docker, you can go back to the documentation and see what's required on the edge. So on the edge, we need to have a container runtime, and there are different, here we have different setups for different container runtimes. Um, so I have the latest version of Docker installed on my Edge core. I'm also supposing that that's going to be the same thing on my cloud core. Yeah. So as from Docker version 18 point something, you don't need to install containerd because it comes with container, or it comes with containerd already, so you don't need to install that separately. So okay. On the cloud core, we need to have Kubernetes according to the documentation. So I've also made notes on how I can install or bootstrap a Kubernetes cluster with kind. So I'm just going to copy that. So on the documentation, there was no, they didn't tell us how to install Kubernetes or anything. So you just have to go to the Kubernetes documentation to find how you can, or find the installation process for Kubernetes. So I'm just going to use kind to bootstrap a cluster in this case. So let me just be sure that that works. Yeah, so we have kind on our virtual machine right now. So and then, like I said initially, I already have like a container runtime um, on my KubeEdge Edge Core device, or virtual machine. I was doing that just before this call started. So if I do a, okay, I actually ran a systemctl system console status Docker to see the status of Docker, and you can see that Docker is running. So if I do the same thing for containerd, you'd also see that it's active and running. So let's go right into KubeEdge. So to install KubeEdge, here it says that we need to install KDM. I don't know how this is pronounced, but I mean I'm going to call it KDM. So we need to install KDM, and KDM is going to help us install the cloud and the edge components of KubeEdge. So it says here it does not handle the installation of Kubernetes and its runtime environment. So we have to install Kubernetes ourselves. I just remembered. So to interact with Kubernetes, we need to install kubectl, and I don't. That's not installed yet. So we also need to install that. Skipped me. So it's part of the Kubernetes setup process. Okay, so let's run kubectl again. Okay, so we can see that that has been installed. So right now we have kubectl running on our cloud core. So to install KDM, so we can download it from the GitHub release or use any of the installation methods that are listed here. So I actually tried installing KDM, but there seems to be an error somewhere here. But then I think it was just a typo. So if you run this on, so by the way, we need to install KVM both on Cloud Core and on Edge Core. So to install KDM, we're just going to get it from the official GitHub releases, and then try to extract that. So um, here it says copy this, copy our extracted directory, and then copy it to user local bin KDM. So I'll just paste that here. It says no such file or directory. So let's just look at what we downloaded. So I'm just going to do an ls. Okay, yeah. So the issue is actually with so here we have the KDM version V1.17.0. Here it doesn't have V anything, so we've just added the V. I'm just going to use sudo actually because yeah. So if I run KDM, yeah, I think we have that installed now. So we have to do the same thing on the Edge core. This is Cloud Core. I'm going to run the exact same command on Edge core. So I'm going to copy the same thing. So there's a bit of latency on my end. Um, okay, cannot write to KDM. Oh, permission something. So I'm guessing I have to run this as a super user. Mm. So it's essentially the same command that's on the official website or on the documentation rather. However, I've added sudo to be able to run it as a root user. Yeah. I think there still seems to be an error somewhere here. Cannot write to permission denied. Okay. So I'm just going to run that one after the other. I think the issue is with unzipping this file. So I don't know.
I think on the copy, you might need a sudo to put it in user local bin.
Yeah, I actually did run that with
Oh,
a,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, I thought that was it.
Um, it says cannot find this, so I'm just gonna. It means it's not downloaded. So let me just try to get it again. Mhm. um, but I don't think I need a sudo to do a wget, right? Oh, interesting. Okay, that worked. Um, so yeah, so we have it unzipped here. So I'm just going to copy copy that to user local bin. Okay, and here from here we see that again it's v1.17.0. So I think it's just a typo in the docs. So be mindful of that if you're trying to set it up on your own. um yeah, that's installed KDM. Let's be sure that yes. So step one done. On to bigger things. So we need to set up Cloud Core, and we need to also set up Edge Core. So from the documentation here, there are also different ways to set up Cloud Core and Edge Core. So I actually did try this, but it didn't work somehow. But I think I'm going to try it again. So let's start from the very beginning here. So set up Cloud Core, set up cloud side, KubeEdge masternode. So by default, ports 10,000 and 10,002 on your cloud core need to be accessible for your edge nodes. So since I'm using GCP, I have gone ahead to update the update firewall settings. So you can find that in networking, view network. Okay, sorry, not that. So you can go to your virtual machine and then look for networks or networking. Yeah. So on the network interfaces, you can just click on that and go to firewalls and then add a firewall rule. Um, please don't do this on production. Thank you. So I set up a new firewall rule, like to allow this particular port to be discoverable and to like make it easy to interact with. So you can also set up your own firewall rules. So the documentation says those ports on your cloud core need to be accessible. So I've done that already on my virtual machines. Then it also says some important notes. At least one of kubeconfig or master must be configured correctly to verify the version and other information of Kubernetes cluster. Um, I'm not sure what that is, but I mean we'll get to it. It also says ensure the edge node can connect to cloud node using local IP of cloud node, or specify the public IP of the cloud node. So if you look at our virtual machines, you can see the external IP with which you can interact with these machines. So um, the documentation says you need to specify the public IP of the cloud node with the advertised address flag. Okay, and here it says the advertised address exposed is what I showed us now. So the default IP. However, these are two different virtual machines running on through the internet. So we're just going to make use of that external IP as opposed to defaulting to local IP. So is the cloud core, we need to use KDM init advertise the exposed IP address, which is this one in our case, hyphen hyphen profile version, blah blah blah. So I'm just going to copy that and put it somewhere here. Oopsie. And just edit the exposed IP. And this goes on our cloud core. Okay, it seems that failed, and it failed because there is no error loading config file slash root slash kube config. So let me just check that we have a kube config. So we do not have a kube config yet. Before fixing that, let me just create a kind create cluster. Um, mhm. Just a second. Failed to create cluster. Okay, let me just check the status of our Docker to make sure that Docker is running. Okay, yeah, we have Docker running. So what's this error? Permission denied. Hmm. Okay. Um, I guess I needed to run that as root user. So while we are waiting for our cluster to be created, we can go back to the documentation and try to see what to expect. But then we don't even have this cube config yet.
All right, we're just going to give it a few minutes. Looks like we got a disconnection here. Please stand by. Looks like there was some stutter when she was typing the command. So let's see. We'll just give her a minute. Thanks, y'all, for showing up and listening. Hopefully, we'll see some of you folks at KubeCon. We have KubeCon in Hong Kong coming up next week, and I will be there as well. And if you haven't gotten your hotel yet for Salt Lake City, strong recommend you take care of that one, because those are going to sell out quick. We'll give it another minute here. All right, here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's all good. I was just filling in people with the news, so I don't know if
Okay.
the retry will work here if you click on that.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, we're got about 15 minutes left. So if it doesn't show up and you just want to go over some of the conclusion parts in the docs, then we can call it there. But
Um,
I don't know how easy it would be to get your connection back to the terminal.
I do not know. Just I don't know.
Mm. Huh? It's gonna try.
Sorry about that.
Don't even sweat it. It's technology people can't really can't really complain. Oh, excuse me. It looks like we got it up and running though, so I'll go ahead and let you continue.
Yes.
Yeah, 15-minute warning there. Hold on here. All right, moving on.
So I don't know if the cluster was created or not. So let me just. So let me just run kind get clusters. Mm, okay, I keep making this mistake. So yeah, our cluster was created, thankfully. So, but we do not have a cube config yet. So I'm just going to create a directory and then copy the default cube config for this particular cluster um, to our home directory. So, so I'm going to create a cube directory, and then I am going to, let me just check that that was created. Yeah. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to copy the, I'm going to get the kube config for this cluster that was created and just copy it to our home directory. So kind get kube config for our cluster, which is CNCF. Oopsie. Okay. Okay. So that cluster has a kube config. So I'm just going to copy that kube config to our home directory. I'm going to copy it and put it in home. So this is just the Kubernetes part. So we're still trying to set up Kubernetes. So I'm just going to run a kubectl get nodes to be sure that that works. Yeah. So we have our control plane ready now, so we can continue with every other thing KubeEdge. Um, yeah. So well, I'm just going to rush through everything before our time elapses. So while reading the documentation, I found that if you use KDM deprecated init to install KDM as opposed to or to initialize the cloud core as opposed to using KDM init, with deprecated, you're going to get it's going to install Cloud Core in a binary process. It's also going to generate certificates, and it's also going to install all the CRDs that you need. So I'm just going to make use of this option, KDM deprecated init, and yeah, I have written down the command somewhere here in my notes. Yeah, so KDM deprecated init for Cloud Core hyphen advertise, as we saw in the documentation, and the advertised or the exposed IP address is this one. So I'm going to copy it and paste. Yeah. And then the KubeEdge version that we're going to be using is 1.17.0. So we have to use the same KubeEdge version both on the cloud and on the node according to the documentation. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to use that to initialize Cloud Core. Fingers crossed, hopefully that works. Yay! So we have Cloud Core running right now. So let's us try the same installation. Let's try setting up our KubeEdge core. While that is starting up, so on the cloud side, we need to run KDM get token. So with this token, the edge core is going to be able to join the network. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to call it that. So we'll run a sudo KDM get token. So we'll use this token on the edge core side to, oopsie, to set up edge core. I'm not sure why this keeps disconnecting. Well, hopefully it works this time. Hmm. So running sudo kdm get token has generated a token for us. So we need to copy this token. And again, from my notes to, I think we've already installed KDM on the Edge core. Okay, I don't know what the problem is here, but I'm just going to try to open that again. Can everyone hear me? Am I still on the call?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So to initialize Edge core, um, I've also copied out the command to initialize Edge core. So we need sudo kdm deprecated join, and then we need the same IP port that we used on the cloud core, which is the IP address, the exposed IP address of the cloud core machine. We need that to be able to. Okay, I'm not sure what the problem is here, but essentially, this is the command. You add the token that you've generated, and then with that, if you run kubectl get nodes, you'd be able to see the edge core on your cloud core. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know why this particular machine is not starting up anymore. Yeah. So back to the documentation. Okay, to join the edge node, you use KDM join, which is what we just saw. So KDM join cloud core IP ports. The cloud core IP ports is mandatory, and yeah, the ports that we're making use of is the 10,000, which is what was specified earlier when we were reading through the documentation. So it's mandatory, and then the token is the token that was generated on the cloud core side. So running this will automatically set up your edge core, and you can be able to see it or visualize it on the cloud core side. I wish that this was working, but it's not working, and I don't know what to do about it.
I wouldn't worry about it at this point. Just talk through the docs and
So on the docs, what we've succeeded in doing is to install KubeEdge using KDM. There are also other options to install um, KubeEdge, which is from binary. And under binary, there I actually saw like different options or different ways to install KubeEdge. So as soon as you're done in setting up, like you install set up the cloud core and the edge core, the next thing would be to actually do a small deployment, like from edge core, try to deploy something to your edge core from your cloud core. And I think I was actually able to get to a point where if you switch off the cloud, like if the cloud goes offline, like you make the cloud go offline somehow, the edge, the application, or yeah, whatever you've deployed to edge core would still be running. So I think I was able to get to that point. So which basically explains the edge autonomy, where the cloud doesn't necessarily need to be connected. Even if it disconnects, you can still um, run your applications on the edge core. And even if the even if the edge device is disconnected from the cloud core, you'd still be able to get the information or metadata, and as well as the status of whatever is running on edge core. I think I was able to get to that point, and I'd have really loved to demo that here, but I don't know why the other virtual machine is not starting. So so
And that,
essentially I'd say, if you I mean, it's a cool project to try out. I'd like to use it to do some real life. I'd like to use it to actually deploy some things in real life. Get a sense of how that really works at scale. Like, try to auto scale it. Try to um, auto scale it by different using different means, and then see how it works. I'd like to try that out. Personally, I think it's a cool product, it's a cool tool, and I think it would be mostly beneficial to people who want to um, run Kubernetes on the edge, and actually make sure that whatever they're running on the edge is secure. They can reach it at any point in time. Um, yeah, that's what I think about it. I also found like just a few lapses in documentation. So I'm going to make a note of. I've already made the note of that. I'll try to just correct, not necessarily correct. I'll try to contribute to the project, like by making some of those edits that need to be made on the documentation. And I think our time is up actually.
it is. So thank you very much for the tour here. And like, hey, everyone has a machine fail, but um, that's kind of why we do these, to show people, all of the things that you could possibly run into when you try something. So thanks for that. Okay, and with that, that concludes this episode. We'll be back next week. I'll be in Hong Kong, but Sayim will be doing In Toto. And then the week after that, Robert Sriracha and I will be doing Jaeger, which is distributed tracing. And then I think we have you coming on a few more sessions over the next month or so. Yeah. So, but great job at your first one. These are a lot of fun. So like I really appreciate you taking the time to
All
come.
right.
Yeah. And
Thank
with
you.
that, thank you everybody. We will catch everybody